Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Not too much, man. Hi.
And we have Gabe Byars. How's it going, man?
Doing well. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Gabe's second appearance on the podcast. We're going to dive into some other stuff today, but if you want to check out the first episode, definitely search his name, Gabe Byars, and that's Byars, and you can listen to the first one. And this is round two, but Gabe, if you do want to give a quick intro for anyone who hasn't caught the first episode, just the basics of who, what, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my name is Gabe Byars. I'm 45 years old, live in Salt Lake City, Utah with a wonderful wife and a menagerie of animals. Work as an occupational therapist. It's actually kind of a two-role thing. One, I work in our university hospital, and that really involves working with people with disabilities, helping them get back to everyday normal life. Second part of that is during the academic year, I teach at our local community college to teach new and upcoming occupational therapy assistants, which is a really nice balance. So I've been member of Garage Gym Athlete for a little over 2 years. I think 2 years last month. The 14th of April was my GG anniversary.
That's awesome.
And then train in our basement gym. Started in this room, which is primarily cardio, kettlebells type stuff, and then expanded into the back of our basement with the squat rack, weights, and then looking for space where I can expand from there.
Yeah, just taking over the whole house.
That's my goal.
One space at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually you'll be like Marco, and you'll just have a squat rack in your living room.
Yeah, that too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the intro. I did want to get into maybe a little bit of your background and, where you came from, why you do what you do, and all that stuff. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so during our first interview, we really only talked about my recent background, doing climbing, doing ultra running. But after the interview, it's wait, I didn't talk about the distance stuff, which probably actually makes a better story, to be honest, because it started as a kid. I was playing around, and then all of a sudden I'm just there, and I would just pass out. It's probably 4 or 5 years old. So they take me to a doctor. They referred me to neurologist. Neurologist has prescribed exercise-induced epilepsy. So they thought every time I'd exercise, I'd have a seizure. So they'd say no exercise whatsoever. Combine that with living in the Midwest. And I was, chunky isn't the right word for it. Fat is the right word for it. And this went on through pretty much most of my childhood. Never played team sports, like excused from PE class, and never really got that exposure. Then somewhere in my younger teens, saw a doctor, and the doctor said, this just doesn't feel right to me. Referred out and decided actually it was an autonomic nervous condition where normally when we exercise, our heart rate goes up. As we all know, you rest and it goes back down. For me, it would just dive and keep diving until my brain wouldn't get enough oxygen. And then I'd pass out. turns out the interventions for exercise-induced epilepsy and this condition are actually the flip. Whereas with exercise-induced epilepsy, it's don't exercise. With this is, no, train yourself. Train yourself to control your heart. Become an active controller. So still went into my teens with a fear of exercise, to be honest.
But, yeah, that's what I was thinking is like, even with that news, it's got to be hard to, like, you've developed this, okay, I'm kind of scared to exert myself. That's a hard place to be in. Yeah.
And that's really where I started from. And then it started slowly. I started to learn my heart rate, learn to control my heart rate better. And then in college, eventually found martial arts, which kind of allowed me to grade into it. And then eventually that even led to running, and then ultra running. And then it just kind of hasn't been a problem since then. I think I kind of exposure therapied my way out of exercise, and now it's a major part of what I do, where if I don't do it, I actually have bigger problems, get nasty to be with.
Yeah. Well, have you experienced any issues since? Have you been?
No.
Wow.
I have noticed that if I'm sick, if I'm dehydrated, I'm more likely to have the lightheadedness. But as long as I keep up on that, I've been fine. And this will include something like we do fat and sugar, right? Where you're just alternating between zone 4, zone 1, zone 2. And you just, by learning to control, learning what it feels like, I can effectively preempt it by doing a cool down, right? Because again, you're effectively overriding the body's response to go to baseline to say, oh, no, I'm just going to move to slowly running, to slowly walking, only then sit down to gradually bring yourself back into it. So effectively using the transmission to control the car instead of relying on the brakes.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and something I recently challenged athletes to do with learning to control your heart rate. And people don't really understand what I say when I mean that, or maybe they don't even think that it's possible. Do you have any tips for an athlete who is looking to control their heart rate a little bit more, ways that they can start kind of build up to that?
Yeah, start with something simple. Nowadays, with your fancy dancy activity trackers, heart rate monitors, et cetera, it's easy. But what I did actually in high school was just with during class, always, because hey, what else am I supposed to pay attention to during class? I would take my heart rate, just use my watch and 2 fingers, and I would just over time say, okay, I'm at 60 beats a minute. I'd work on trying to make it 5 beats faster, and then bring it down to 5 beats slower. And it was really just a conscious attention to it. I learned that by controlling my breathing, I can control my heart rate. I still do this when I am exercising, that there's breathing transitions that correlate to zones for me. My zone 2 is roughly 3 breaths in for 2 breaths out, roughly. Whereas when I move into zone 3, it's a little closer to 2 to 1. When I'm into zone 4, it's like a 1 to 1. And so by changing, you can actually, if I'm in zone 2, I can actually say, no, I'm going to change my breathing to that 3 to 2. And your heart rate responds to that. I'm sure your exertion responds to that too. You're just using that as an external cue. But so effectively observing your heart rate and just spending the time to say, go faster, focus on changing your breathing, breathing a little more rapidly, shorter exhale, shorter inhale, much quicker exhale, and you'll see your heart rate rise. Flip that, and you'll see your heart rate fall.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of heart rate monitors and all of that stuff, but I don't think that, just like anything else, I don't think that they should be a crutch. Like I know anytime we do any type of zone work, which is a lot, I challenge myself to exert myself to where I think that level is, and then I'll check my heart rate monitor to make sure that I'm right. But I don't like to just be like, oh, am I there yet? Like if I need to get into zone 4, I want to be able to run until I feel like, you know what, this has got to be zone 4. Let's check. Okay, zone 4.
Yeah. That's actually one of the reasons I moved away from the MAF zones is it didn't correlate to what I felt.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like the exact opposite with me and MAF. I felt like my zone 2 was more sustainable in MAF. Like I feel like I could actually do that for very long periods of time. But yeah, we each gotta know ourselves.
How so you went from martial arts to running and ultra and like endurance racing. Did you find, because endurance racing is longer, steadier for longer periods of time, that was easier to control, or was that a reason why you went to ultras? Because really you're just staying at a high level for a long time, so that's just okay. Once you set there, you're just going to stay at this level, versus intervals, you're going up and down and up and down, and that's kind of was the issue, was just you just plummet.
Yeah, well, with ultras you're actually staying at a low level for a long time.
Yeah,
so you're probably as low as you can. So optimally you're staying in zone 1 to zone 2 for hours. You'll have the cardiac drift going on, so by the end of it, a hill will be zone 3 to zone 4. But yeah, I think I actually started that as that way of that steady state allowed me to control it better, and it's allowed me to be more conscious of where it is. So when I was talking about the heart rate zone, that's where I think I figured all that out, is by reading, looking at the heart rate zones, and then just paying attention to my heart and saying, what do I feel like?
That's awesome. Well, how about over the last year? How has training been? It's been about a year, close to a year since we did our interview. How have things been going for you? What's changed, if anything?
Not much has changed, honestly. Still kind of the same rhythm to continue to be consistent through the pandemic. I did slightly alter my workout routine. So instead of waking up at 5 to 5:30 immediately training, I allowed myself a cup of coffee since I didn't have to commute.
Nice.
That will be a hard one to break, going back to normal life. But all in that, everything has been the same. I think from where we were at, did a couple cycles on hard to kill, did a cycle on shred, then was going to do one cycle of strength to start out this year, but listening to that first of the year athlete, or the first of the year track overview, when you kind of said, well, challenged athletes to stick with the track for a year, I decided, you know what? Joe has me in his grips for a year. I'm going to go a year of strength, see how that goes, and then try a year of endure after that, so Marco can have his way with me. And
brave move.
Well, both of them, apparently.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, and then go back to hard to kill for that more balanced approach. For me, when I think about it, it kind of makes sense, because being the endurance athlete, strength and power has never been my thing. So before GGA, I had maybe 6 months of lifting experience, all in the home gym, doing 5x5, but really just had never spent the time to develop that. My goal was to be kind of the lean ultra runner, where every pound of muscle is just going to drag you back. So then just have enjoyed the strength building. So I said, yeah, I want to spend the year building strength. And I've already seen Joe seen great gains with it within that first cycle. and
Nice.
excited to see where we're at for this next one.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's really, that's the next level of commitment there. Having a year, not only, hey, here's what I'm doing this year, here's what I'm doing next year, you know, and already committing to those things. Do you feel like that's what it takes to truly see results in fitness? I mean, you've been doing this stuff for a while from your full history here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you think other listeners could gain from that? You know, does it take that level of commitment to see the results that you want?
You know, I think it does. The human body is slow to respond, especially for me. I'm 45. So to be honest, I say I'm past my peak, but y'all have made me into the best shape of my life. So kind of feel stupid saying it, but I know it's going to take me longer to build muscle. I know it's going to take me longer to build endurance. I know I can't be as fast as I could have been in my younger years. But I'm still responding. And the data actually shows that older adults can still respond to this stuff and get stronger, but it takes more time. So I do think that setting out your goals and being consistent and saying, okay, I know I'm not going to get there it's not like when you're 20 years old and you can look at a weight and gain muscle. Right?
Yeah.
Once you're in your 40s into your 50s, it's much more like, okay, this is going to be a 6 months, year, 2 year long project that I'm on. And I think just committing to that and being okay with it.
Yeah. I think that's what it does take in people. It's just the most unsexy thing on the planet to try and sell to someone, but it's the honest truth. It's the unfortunate truth that a lot of people don't want to hear. But this community, I think, is ready, and they hear it all the time. So it's good to hear it from you as well. All right. Anything else that we should cover before we get into the questions? Anything else you think that we should hear about from over the last year or in general?
Not really. I did want to say, Joe, strength has been really fun so far this year. You've been doing good.
Thanks.
I feel like the Facebook group doesn't give strength enough love. I need to keep hiking it more.
Just like we're like the third born child. It's just like, yeah, that, you know, it was fine for the first two, but we're just gonna let the third do whatever they want to do. It's fine. I'm okay with it. Have you added in any extra running on top of the strength days? Because I mean, I there's still a decent amount of conditioning, and some people still think it's too much. But have you added some extra? Because I know myself and Dom are on strength, or when Dom was, we were doing a little bit of extra running just for balance.
And so I do on my rest days. Well, at least on my rest days, I'm doing some type of zone 2 work. Running, one, because I just enjoy it, but two, I forgot to mention goals for the year. Thinking about it, got a couple big things coming up, both of them a nice mix between strength and endurance. One, that near-death trail race. I'm the idiot doing that. It's a little under 6 mile trail race. The first 3 miles uphill, carrying a 50-pound sandbag.
Oh yeah.
Drop the sandbag, you run back.
Or roll.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one sounds fun.
Yeah, that will be fun.
Well, we do a lot of weighted carries in strength, so.
Yeah. And so I've just been adding in some weighted runs. I think my plan today is a zone 2 run alternating between sandbag run, unweighted run, but staying in zone 2 the entire time. How slow do you think that sandbag run will be? The sandbag shuffle. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, so that's in June, so about a month away from when we're recording this. And then at the end of summer, my wife and I have a Goruck Star Course scheduled. We did one last year over the pandemic here in Salt Lake. It was a
Is that the 24-hour map? Like you have to go to different waypoints and everything?
Yeah. So effectively what they do is they give you, you show up, they give you waypoints. You plot your own route, you're carrying weight. If you're under 150 pounds, it's 10 pounds of weight in your ruck. Above that, it's 20 pounds. I'm trying to say under 150, but Joe, you keep adding on muscle. So keep having to lose fat too.
There you go.
Because being 151, having to carry an extra 10 pounds would just be lame.
Yeah.
But so we've done one before. It was roughly 12 miles. That was fun. So we're looking at this year. We saw one in Denver, and like it's 50 miles. And my wife and I are saying, could we do it? We could do that. That would be fun, in air quotes. And so we signed up for it. So 20 hours to cover 50 miles, orienteering through Denver, all without killing your spouse.
Yeah. That'll be the biggest part of the challenge, right?
Yeah.
That's
I've
awesome.
learned to just call them dates and enjoy them.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. Well, good luck on all of those. None of those are like
crazy traditional. Like,
yeah, those are all like pretty challenging, very, very challenging events. So good luck on all those. And I guess once you wrap up your season of events here, we're gonna have to get you back on and hear how they went.
Yeah, it'll be fun. But yeah, so it's nice because they do blend this idea of strength with endurance. So in answer to your question, yes, Joe, I'm either running or rucking many days a week just to get myself so I don't die.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, let's get to some of these other questions. See if any of your answers have changed. What's the hardest workout you've ever done?
I was alternating on this one. Bambi occurred to me simply because putting that bike on max resistance was horrible, and then going to a run was horrible. But I went back and I was actually thinking about it more. I talked about on our last interview doing pacing my wife for her 200 miler, but I thought about my 100 miler this time, and more in a mental toughness side of things. So I worked several years ago. It's actually went back to North Carolina to run it. 100-mile race. My big goal was to finish in under 24 hours. Worked hard, trained a ton, doing like 100+ mile running weeks, just beating myself into the ground all through a nasty winter here, and started the race, and I was on it. By about the midpoint, I was well on my way to finishing in top 10 for my age group. And then somewhere in the night, my wife was pacing me and things started going downhill as I couldn't hold a straight line anymore. I couldn't hold a conversation. At one point, my wife had to go to the bathroom, but she was afraid to leave me, afraid I'd just wander off into the woods, because I would have.
Should I tie your ankle to a tree or something?
Pretty much is what she would have to do. Either that or bring me into the porta potty with her.
Yeah.
But she had me see the medical director. He gave me time to lie down and try to rehydrate. He basically diagnosed with dehydration and hypothermia. Turns out it wasn't that cold, but when you're running for 20 some odd hours, your body loses the ability to produce heat. But at that time, when I'm lying on that cot and saw that top 10 age group finish slip away, but two, was pretty certain that 24 hours slipped away. Somewhere in there, my GPS watch died. But in that, giving myself that time and then backing up and saying, okay, neither one of those things matter, right? I had, going into the race, I said A goal, B goal, C goal. It's a strategy I learned a long time ago from actually being an occupational therapist. A goal is when things go perfect, so that top 10 age group finish. B goal is under 24 hours. C goal is finishing without going to the hospital. Like A goal was gone, B goal was gone. I thought, well, I can probably still make my C goal. So I just resigned myself to that. allowed myself to recover. And then when I finally had recovered, when I could be coherent again, got up and started trudging, dressed in like 15 layers, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man level of layering with a full belly of water, so running didn't work. Trudged through the last 12 miles, showed up at the finish line for 23 hours, 33 minutes.
Nice.
All while lying down for 2 hours in the middle, or in like the late part of it. So somehow I recaptured that primary goal that I actually wanted, which is nice. But the mental toughness involved of lying there, seeing that initial glimpse of it being dashed, but saying, hey, you know what? This sucks, but I'm going to pick myself up and get back out there for another 2 hours, 3 hours, and still enjoy the night was great. And like I said, I still finished with my primary goal and didn't go to the hospital.
Yeah. Not going to the hospital is always a solid one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this plays into it, but we always ask the question, what's in your opinion, best activity for building mental toughness? Do those play hand in hand, or do you have a different response for that one?
Actually, it does play hand in hand, thinking about it. Because I was thinking, when we last interviewed, we were still in the early stages of the pandemic. And I feel like I've actually done well through the entire thing. And thinking back to conversations I've had with students over the past few months. And I think part of it is that being willing to embrace change. Right? So the only thing permanent in life is change. We all know things are going to change, but humans are notoriously bad about resisting it. It turns out, the study I read last week, the people that are open to change are the ones that thrive. The people that close down to change are the ones that suffer through. So looking back at this pandemic, I think one of the reasons that I was okay with it, that actually I think I did thrive during it, is I was like, okay, yeah, stuff is going to change. Cool, right? How do I adapt and keep my brain centered on my goals, on what I care about, on what I want to accomplish? And I think that allowed me to thrive during, same thing during this race, being able to say, okay, this changed. Okay, where can I go from here? How can I still stay true to my goals and what I need? And I think always being willing to take that step back and to accept change and to accept that it's okay, and accept that, hey, you know what? I'm still in control, and I'm still in control of myself, and I can still choose a path that I want, I think is big. And I think it actually factors into what we talked about earlier with becoming an old dude in fitness and being okay with that change, and being okay with the change before with the heart condition. Yeah. Yeah,
they're just new games you have to play. You have to learn the new rules, but you got to keep playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
My answer is going to stay the same on this one: programming.
Awesome.
I'm a big believer of that. All of the equipment I've got is great. I love it. But how much of this stuff, when you go into other people's houses, is just sitting there gathering dust? The reason why I think mine doesn't is the fact that you all provide great programming. You all help me find that path, and find the path that I wouldn't necessarily take in order to improve it, to get better. And add that in, the fact that beyond just even not choosing what I wouldn't necessarily choose, But the fact I don't have to choose it. I have to make too many decisions in my day. I don't have time or energy to waste on making my own training plan. I think that if I had a solid training plan from any one of the EO3 coaches, no equipment whatsoever, body weight, you all could make me stronger. You all could improve my endurance, improve my overall health.
Yeah, I appreciate the confidence there. I do agree with you as well. I am biased, but I do agree with you. I think that programming, I obviously love programming, but I think it is one of the most important things, maybe the most important thing that you can do beyond consistency. But then I always argue that after consistency, like, you have to get the programming. You can't just like, you could just walk every day, but that's not what the results most people are looking for. So I think that's awesome. All right, Joe, you gonna go with anything?
So since it has been a year or so, have you added anything to your gym since we have last talked, or do you have something prepared to, or do you wanting to add soon?
So in terms of, I've added a heavy sandbag, got a Goruck 80-pound sandbag. Currently have it filled to 60. Turns out going over half your body weight for your first heavy sandbag might have been bit off a little more than I can chew. But that's,
you can always just take some out.
That's what, yeah, I just took some out. I'll add some in a while, get an intermediate sandbag, but that's been fun. And in addition to doing sandbag work that you do, I'll throw in some other stuff occasionally. I've also gotten the Goruck plate carrier. So effectively,
is that like a backpack with a plate?
It's effectively a backpack with a plate.
Okay.
So you can use it as a weight vest, but only having the weight on your back. Advantages is opens up your chest so I can breathe better.
There you go, Joe.
Right.
Something to help my hips.
But the other advantage is it uses the plates I already have for the ruck.
Cool.
I'm a big fan of that. Disadvantage is it's everything on your back.
Yeah.
So you do have that asymmetry, which is going to make the work a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
But already making myself work a little harder with a weight vest, might as well make myself a little harder. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of adding equipment, I got to buy new plates, Joe. You're making my deadlift too big. Right now I can still put my change plates on for next fit week. But after that, I'm out of weight. So I'm going to have to buy some new 45s to grow into over the next few years.
It's a good problem to have, and it is Joe's fault.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you know what? I got a sandbag. I don't know if it's been like 2 years now. But I got is a 150-pound sandbag, loadable. And I decided that was just going to be my first workout, was like load it to 150 and then like walk around. And I didn't make it that far. I didn't make it near as far as I thought I was going to. I mean, I obviously done like the iron mile and such at heavy loads, but I was like, I'll just go for a long walk. And I got my butt handed to me on that one. That was because you can go out. It's always the way back. Same with the iron mile. You're out there and you're like, okay, I made it pretty far. And then you're like, oh crap, I got to go all the way back. So,
there have been times when I've considered calling.
Yeah.
Hey, can you come pick me up? I've walked too far. And my wife would say, no.
Yeah, I would get the same answer. I haven't even tried. I once blew a bike tire on a ride and I just walked home because I knew she wasn't coming to get me.
Nice.
All right, man. Well, last question of the show. What is the best advice you have for all the garage gym athletes out there?
Consistency. I think it's actually the same answer I gave last year. And it follows up with what we talked about before. Just committing yourself to doing something to push you out of that comfort zone. every day, something to make yourself stronger, something to make yourself better. For us within the Garage Gym Athlete programming, it's getting that green dot. It's completing that workout every day. And yeah, it's not sexy, but those incremental gains add up and they will make you better. I will say, I have over the past year gotten my first 2 orange dots. 2 Meet Yourself Saturdays that life interfered with. And I said, okay, which I also think was, and my wife pushed me to this one a little bit, but actually I think it's healthy because it's not just checking a box. It's saying, hey, this is what's important to me. This is where I want to spend my time. And then accepting that when, hey, life interferes, that I'm okay with that. And I will say that something else is more important that day. But 2 years, 2 days of missed workouts is about where I want to hold it.
That's a great achievement there, no matter
Yeah.
what. That's incredible. That's awesome. Well, Gabe, it's always awesome to talk to you, and I do want to talk to you again after you complete some of these events that you're going to do, so I'm sure we'll have you back on the show. But Garage Gym Athlete, for as long as you have been, the consistency you have, all the information you've shared, I do appreciate you being an athlete, for sharing everything that you have today. So, Gabe, really appreciate it.
Great. Appreciate you all.